Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. Today, we're going to talk about dealing with astral skeptics. But before that, I'd like to talk about some of the comments and the theories that were proposed from last week's video. Remember when I traveled to a future high-tech medical center around 125 years from now, and I witnessed a number of interesting inventions, including a roof and walls that were made of some sort of a fluidic substance that seemed to follow the sun. Saw these new vehicles, and then of course we saw various bioprobes and implants inside of someone's body that were probably monitoring their health, and who knows, perhaps even maintaining it. And whenever I'm in situations like this, obviously I'm a fish out of water, and I try my best to guess at what I'm seeing and what its function is. And of course, that's always a tough thing to do. I mean, imagine somebody from the Civil War or the Revolutionary times a few hundred years ago, and imagine transporting them to New York City or to an airport, and they'd have to report back what they saw. I mean, like, you can only imagine how that would work out. At any rate, I had some very, very, very thoughtful comments that I want to share before we get into the main part of this video. Now, the first comment was from Photios, who's one of our subscriber members. He said, fascinating as always. I actually came across a tech news story earlier today about a whole class of materials that I was previously unaware of. To quote the Ars Technica website, which is a big high-tech website, the next big thing in 3D printing just might be so-called 4D materials that employ the same manufacturing technique but are designed to deform over time in response to changes in environment, like humidity and temperature. They're also sometimes known as active origami or shape morphing systems. MIT scientists have made some shape-shifting material that morphs into a human face, for instance. Now, if you do a Google search using the keywords 4D printing, temperature, architecture, you find some useful information. Apparently, this is all very new and still in a very early research phase. But Photios thinks that perhaps this might be the early embryonic stage of something that I saw on that roof and the walls at the future medical center. Scott H. had a different theory. He thought perhaps the fluid walls were some sort of a quarantine to contain airborne bacteria and viruses. I think that's certainly thinking outside the box. Based on what I saw following how it was following the sun's rays, I'm not sure that's what it was doing, but it's certainly a very interesting and out of the box type of theory. So thank you, Photios. Thank you, Scott H. Now, Rudy Martinez had another interesting comment. He said, the fluid is probably both an energy-saving and energy-producing device. It's likely some mixture of algae and liquid solar cells. The algae has been bioengineered with the DNA of a small animal, perhaps a flagellate, so that it is capable of locomotion. So this plant-animal hybrid is constantly chasing after the sun's rays. Mixed in with them, or perhaps into their DNA, is some sort of liquid solar panel that is converting the photons they are capturing into electricity. More than likely, it'd be millions of tiny nanomachines doing this portion. Depending on their advancement, these machines could be woven within the DNA of the algae itself or attached to the individual cell. Catching the sun's rays provides electricity to the center and blocks the sunlight from moving or from coming into the center, thus helping the building to be more energy efficient. This is only a guess, by the way. I think it's a pretty good guess, Rudy. Rudy Martinez, thank you. Elderberry Sprout had a quick comment. She said, great video as usual. Thanks, Rick. I love hearing all positive developments you see in the future. The cars sounded particularly interesting with the sliding doors and the transition type glass. So cool. Thank you, guys. I mean, I asked for some technical comments as to what I saw was, and I think you guys really stepped up, so I appreciate it. Now I'd like to transition into the main topic of this video, which is astral projection skeptics. I usually get either Reddit messages or even sometimes comments from various different sources asking not only just astral projection questions, which I'm glad to answer, but skeptics who are challenging me to either come there real quick and take them out of their body, like some sort of a astral Uber or Lyft driver, or perhaps participate in some experiment they've thrown together. This happens on a regular basis, and I always respond in a prompt basis to anything. Now, many comments are respectful, but there's always some of the salty comments that happen. But I want to share with you a chain that just happened this week. And, as we all astral project, you'll probably start being involved with some of these things too. Hi, Rick. Hope you had a good week. I saw your posts and comments in the Astral Projection subreddit. I know that you don't know me, but I'd like to ask a favor. It would change my life for better dramatically, and if your post is true, it would be very simple for you. It's always simple for me somehow. I wish it was that simple. I have always been agnostic about pretty much everything in life. I don't strictly disbelieve in anything, but I also don't really believe in anything that I can't prove or haven't seen for myself. Well, I mean, if you haven't seen atoms, then I guess you don't believe in those. At any rate, I really, really want astral projection to be a real thing. I think there is compelling evidence that it may be a real thing, but I'm equally skeptical that it is not real. There are too many ways it could be explained away. I have been sort of spiraling down into a nihilistic hole, thinking that there's no reason why we are here, and that when we die, nothing probably happens. This would change the way I look at the world. Now, I have been trying all your astral projection techniques for the last 2 weeks. Wow, a whole 2 weeks. But I've only really been able to initiate the sleep paralysis phase, which I think is pretty darn good for 2 weeks, but evidently he doesn't think so. The favor I want to ask is to prove to me that it is real through a simple test. I will give you a location. At that location, I will draw a drawing on a large piece of paper. All I ask is that during one of your astral projections, you pop by this location, take a look at the drawing, and then send me a message and tell me what you saw. If you get it right, I will be thoroughly convinced, and it will change my paradigm of life dramatically. I don't know who this person is, but by the reading of it, my guess is it's someone young. I replied to him, and I always reply on a prompt basis to everybody, and it can be quite overwhelming at times. I'm not going to mention his name. Thank you for your message. Though I don't know you, I sympathize with your search for meaning and truth in this life. In our world today, there are too many people in the same situation as you. I get requests like yours several times a week, and it hits me hard each time. I will be making a video this Saturday, which is of course today, on my YouTube channel, Astral Club, that will address this important concern. Just put those terms in YouTube and look for the yellow video icons. In the meantime, please know that I cannot hand to you the truth you seek. I can only provide some information that you could use to discover the genuine reality and meaning that you may be searching for. If all else fails, look to your friends and hopefully family for meaning. Even if there would be nothing after this life for you, perhaps you can be with them now and be of service in this physical life, which no one can tell you isn't real. Then I got this response. I see. I figured you'd answer something like that. Unfortunately, it just reinforces my belief that you're just making this all up. Whether you really believe in it or whether you just want to make money off YouTube and such, I don't know. Good luck with life. I replied, as I always do in these cases, I just say, I wish you well. And that's it. So, not all comments of this nature are salty. Most of them are respectful. But they happen on a regular basis. And it happens usually several times a week. There's somebody who just asked me real quick to use one of my projections to run off somewhere and take them out of their body or perform or be a guinea pig in their test so that I can personally prove the meaning of life or whatever to them. Now, I want to discuss how I think this type of thing should be looked at. First, there's nothing wrong with being curious and skeptical about a new topic. However, if the wall you've constructed around your mind is completely closed, then it's impossible for any new information to penetrate. Do you really believe that this person who I just read and others like him are truly open, mature, and willing to invest the time and energy necessary to learn to astral project? Or alternately, are they looking for me to be some sort of an astral Uber or Lyft driver coming to pick them up and take them wherever they want to go while they sit on their phone swiping left and right? Or functioning as some sort of a guinea pig running through their little maze so that I can prove to them whatever it is they feel I have an obligation to prove to them. All this reminds me of a friend that I had when I was about an 8-year-old child. And at that time, he had an undiagnosed red-green color blindness. Now, in that type of a situation, you don't have the necessary ability to distinguish between certain colors. And people with certain types of color blindness can see dark reds and dark greens as essentially the same color. Now, we were both 8 years old, and neither of us knew anything about this. And I recall a conversation where we were both on our bikes. I had a red one, he had a green one. I said that he had a good bike, but I liked mine better because red was my favorite color and his was green. He looked at me like I was crazy or that I was trying to pull something, and he said that they were the same color. What was I talking about? I think maybe he was still disillusioned because he'd found out that Santa Claus wasn't real. So he was in a situation of, what is real? Am I real? Is this bike real? Anyway, I even called over some of our friends, and I asked them, what color is my bike? What color is their bike? And everybody answered the same way, but he knew he was right. He knew that we were trying to scam him or fool him for some reason. Eventually, I realized that I really didn't care whether he believed me or not. So I just rode off on my red bike, and he sat there and stewed on his green bike. Secondly, though, we must realize, at least this is my feeling, that it is our joint responsibility to assist our fellow humans to progress in any reasonable way we can. That's the reason why I write articles for Reddit, and I offer my videos freely here on YouTube. Unlike religions, I don't believe in evangelizing, and most of, if not all, of the astral projectors I've ever talked with also aren't about evangelizing. And certainly evangelizing is what Christians do, and special certain sects of Christians that go around trying to convert others actively to their belief system. If you've ever had Mormons knock on your door or Jehovah's Witnesses knock on your door, they are actively trying to convince you to change your belief system and your religion. And when they're doing that, they had better have some answers to some tough questions, because they are asking you very forcefully to abandon everything you've ever known and to believe what they believe. So at that stage of the game, they actually owe you something because they're asking something from you. So you had better be able to provide to them. You have, I think, a responsibility to provide to them the answers to their questions. However, we astral projectors, we aren't those types of people. We don't have a burning need to forcibly convert the world to astral projection. We just want to learn how to do it ourselves. We want to help other people who are interested in the topic. And that's certainly what I'm trying to do here when I write articles for Reddit and when I make these videos. I'm investing many hours each and every week to prepare these videos. It takes up a lot of time, but it's my way of sharing my ability to help others. This is what I am able and prepared to give to help others. As far as I'm concerned, the information has been out there about astral projection for thousands of years. Every culture, going right on back to the Sumerians and the ancient Egyptians, talk about astral projection. It's interesting. I was just reading a book by Joshua Plum Martin, who was a Revolutionary War soldier. And I was in the middle of the book, and out of nowhere, he describes having an astral projection. And it's just, the whole topic has been infused in our culture, right on up to the modern day. So this is not some weird fringe topic no one's ever heard of. It's been in humanity, and it's been in our cultures for thousands of years. I don't know what these skeptics really want. How much more do we have to add to this conversation? If they're truly interested in learning to astral project, there is abundant source material out there, including videos and everything else and books that you can possibly get involved in. Oh, and as a side note, YouTube pays the channel about $15 US a month for advertising. I monetized the channel because I was told that YouTube puts more energy in recommending monetized channels to people searching for videos on your subject than they do non-monetized channels. And I've been seeing increases when I look at the YouTube analytics that they have been bringing in more people who have been on YouTube searching for astral projection videos. So that's why I've monetized it. I'm not looking to retire to Hawaii anytime soon on that $15 a month. Thirdly, I truly believe that the only way one can become convinced and knowledgeable about astral projection is to invest the necessary time to do it themselves. If they don't believe in astral projection after they have slipped out of their physical body and explored an astral realm firsthand, then what could I or anyone listening to this possibly do to convince them that astral projection is indeed a real phenomenon? Fourthly, when people in the physical plane demand proof of astral projection, they are in reality asking for proof that is based on physical plane laws and the physical plane's famous scientific method. Unfortunately, as I've described in past videos, the astral plane has its own set of reality laws that are distinct from those of the physical plane. For example, on the astral plane, I can fly and time travel. I can tell you right now, if I try to fly in the physical, it's not going to end well if I jump off a building. I can traverse outer space faster than the speed of light, something which is currently impossible here on the physical plane. In addition, most of what we see and what I've seen on the astral planes is very different than what a neutral observer would see on the physical plane. So clearly, the astral plane possesses its own laws and vistas that are distinct from those of the physical plane. So when this is just a fundamental misunderstanding. People who don't astral project think that when you leave your body, okay, Now you're still walking around the physical plane, just no longer in a physical body. No. The physical body walks around the physical plane. The astral body walks around the astral plane. And they are by no means identical. And we've discussed the various levels of the astral plane and just how different they get. Now, it is sometimes possible to establish temporary nexus points between the lowest level of the astral and the physical plane. As I've mentioned in past videos, it's true that this very low level often has physical shadows cast upon it. But even then, it's not 100% alike. It's a different plane. It has different things there. And you might be in two. You might go to two planes that are never 100% alike. Like the physical and the astral is subject to time shifts too. That might display a scene from the past, present, or even future. Remember the story I told you about that samovar, where I saw a samovar existing where it didn't exist in the current physical present. It had existed there in the past. I could even see something that would be existing somewhere in the future too. So the laws, it's just very, very different. And that's something I think that is a profound misunderstanding from folks who don't astral project. In addition, I think, remember when I talked about astral projection versus remote viewing? The reason that the military and the CIA and intelligence agencies and the Soviets experimented with remote viewing more than anything else is because remote viewing allows you to send a portion of your consciousness to view something that is happening at a distant point in the physical realm. So if you're trying to collect physical intelligence, it helps to be able to see the physical realm. When you astral project, you are now on the astral realm, and it is not the same as the physical. Lastly, another misunderstanding that people who don't astral project commonly have, and I guess in some way I and everyone here listening should be complimented. They seem to think we have these godlike powers. That, oh, it's not that hard. Just quick slip out of your body, come to Pig's Knuckle, Arkansas, somewhere you've never been, and go to some person's house who you've never met, and find something or do something for them real quick. My goodness, I wish I had that level of control. And I wish I had so many astral projections that I could do this kind of stuff and still fulfill the long list of other objectives which I have for visiting time and space. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. If you've been to some place before, if you know somebody very well, you can target in on them. It's possible to do that. Not 100%, but you can do that. But just show me a picture of a house or give me an address in Pig's Knuckle, Arkansas, that doesn't help me. That doesn't do me any good. I don't have an astral GPS that I can just plug in that address and it'll take me there reliably. So even if I wanted to go through this nonsense, it just isn't possible. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, we have positive and respectful comments and questions that come from our astral club brother, Photios, again. And he suggested that it would be helpful if I could do some short time trips and find out the presidential election results and help us to bring back some technical information that perhaps could help mankind. It could help us out. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. However, even we Astral Club members can sometimes forget, and popular media often causes us to forget the reality as well, that the future is not fixed. It is continually changing. You can astral project to the same place in the same time on different days, and it's different. It's different because we humans change it. We have free will, and that free will causes the changes. If you recall, I did something very, very like that in the 2016 election. At first, I saw Hillary winning, but then she gave that basket of deplorables speech, and I did it again sometime after that, and then I saw the Donald winning. So the future was in flux. Free will can change the future. On one hand, you'd be like, "Oh, gee, I wish that didn't happen because it would be easier to bring back, helpful information." But at the same time, don't we want humans to have free will? Don't you want the ability to change your future, to change mankind's future in a positive way? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like the idea that there be some sort of a fixed future that can't be changed, that was set in stone. Because then what are we? Then we're just automatons, robots, androids walking through predetermined paces. No thanks. I'm not interested in that at all. Now, let's also talk about now what is the method of proof and why that's a problem. As I said before, the astral's very different, and that can cause problems. But remember also, we talked about the quantum entanglement and how it's the future is even stranger than we thought, based on the theories now that we see of quantum entangled particles. Not only can the past change the present, but the future can change the present. The future can change the past. It's all there in quantum entanglement. It's all very possible theoretically. So the reality and the nature of our reality could very well be constantly changing, and we aren't aware of it. Maybe only some of us are aware of it occasionally. But it's infinitely more complex, I think, than we give it credit for. So, it's amazing, but it's just not simple. And that's why when I see these supermarket psychics out there making their little predictions, I say to myself, I don't know. From what I've seen, making those kind of short-term predictions is really difficult because it's a constantly evolving process. And when you throw quantum entanglement in there, it gets even more complex and crazy. Anyway, near-term trips, lastly, I don't like them. I don't like near-term time trips because they're very, very short. Usually I only can stay there for a few minutes. I'm just a ghost, and I can't interact with anyone. And whenever I do time trips, any kind of time trips, I rarely end up in the geographical area that I want. So, I've landed all over the place, over rivers, forests, oceans, beaches, mountains, sometimes in cities that I didn't want to be in. So you always need time to from once you're there, once you wake up from the unconsciousness that always happens when you do time travel. Then you need time to get to where you want to be and to observe. I like the longer time trips because I've got more time there. I have more solidity. I can interact. And that's why I prefer them. And so anyway, personally, as I've grown, when I was younger, I was much more wrapped up in this whole, I've got to prove astral projection exists to everyone. And eventually, as I grew older, I realized that the best thing that I could do would be to provide information, to provide my experiences, so that people who are genuinely interested in astral projection could use that information, whether it be in articles, whether it be videos or classes, seminars, what have you. They could take that information and then go back and learn to do the astral projection for themselves. Because if you're going to truly advance in this world, spiritually, materially, and every other way, there's nothing wrong with having help. But you must take responsibility for your own growth. I can't help you do it myself. You have to do it for yourself. You have to take that responsibility. And that is this week's video. I hope you got something out of it. It was something that I just was, felt that I had to put together and talk about. If you liked it, please like it, share it, subscribe if you haven't already, smash that bell if you haven't done that. That way you'll always be notified when I post a new video. And your questions and comments are excellent. Please continue to leave them. I read them all and comment where appropriate. So thank you very much. You guys are great. And as always, I will see you on the astral plane.